Zuma Rock has been a part of the myth and legend in Nigeria since the 15th century. At almost 2,400 feet high, it's twice the height of the Empire State Building and dominates the surrounding landscape. With all its majesty, Zuma Rock is impossible to miss as a symbol of Nigeria and the country's status as the powerhouse of Africa. Nigeria is a rapidly growing emerging economy in West Africa. It has been a democratic country since 1999 and has an abundance of natural resources. Nigeria is the largest economy in all of Africa and at 200 million has the largest population in the continent. The country has a very large agricultural sector, which accounts for about 60% of economic activity and is the eighth largest oil exporter in the world, adding some $41 billion in US dollars in foreign currency to the Nigerian economy. Nigeria deserves membership of the GCCA for three important reasons. With the largest population in all of Africa, the GCCA has the opportunity to positively impact the lives of 1 in 7 Africans. Nigeria is recognized as having successfully dealt with major health crises before, including the eradication of polio in August 2020 and the Ebola outbreak in 2015. Nigeria has been an African success story showing the political will to take measures to slow the spread of COVID-19 and implement measures to support the economy and those most vulnerable. Nigeria is not just the largest population in Africa, but according to a 2014 United Nations report, the country is the largest youth population in Africa and the sixth largest in the world. Not surprisingly, with such a young population, Nigeria is set to become one of the largest populations in the world by 2050. Population growth has been a driver of economic growth in Nigeria, and membership of the GCCA will help secure the future prosperity of Nigeria. The country is the powerhouse of the African continent, and as goes the health and prosperity of Nigeria, so goes the health and prosperity of the African continent. Nigeria has a large driving young population. Their internet penetration rate is 61% compared to only 55% in South Africa. They have 10 of the largest oil reserves in the world and 9 of the largest natural gas reserves. Nigeria also has a very large agricultural sector with an agroecological diversity over more than 77 million hectares of arable land with huge potential for higher food yields. Dealing with health crises are not new to Nigeria. There are significant challenges in implementing vaccine programs in a developing country with big logistical challenges, hard to reach rural communities, apathy, and ignorance, to name a few. Nigeria has shown it can take on these challenges to address major health crises. During the start of COVID for Nigeria, expectations were low. Like many African countries, Nigeria's health system is low capacity. But more importantly, megacities like Lagos and the rapid growth of cities like Abuja and Kano raised practical concerns about density driving contagion. So, Nigeria checked off many of the standard boxes for a country at risk. Nigeria had some other unusual advantages in confronting COVID 19 too. Staying home due to a general spike or for a citywide street cleaning day is not uncommon. People see these regulations as cooperation for a common good and not necessarily an intrusion. The Nigerian central bank has maintained interest rates around the 12% level for almost a decade as a means of containing inflation from Nigeria's strong economic growth of 7% over the same period. Interest rates declined recently in response to lower growth from both the decline in the price of oil and the economic impact of COVID 19. The Nigerian currency, the naira, has depreciated in recent years after the government removed its currency peg. The peg was a way to artificially control the country's exchange rate. The currency is depreciated in response to the declining oil prices, which contributes to the some 90% of Nigeria's export revenues. The lower exchange rate has contributed to the higher inflation rates in recent years as the cost of importing foreign goods has increased in naira. The Nigerian economy is in the process of adjusting to what generally regarded as a new normal in global oil prices. Whilst oil exports are an important driver of Nigeria's export revenues, which account for about 10% of the overall GDP, it is the agricultural sector and the service sectors that account for the vast majority of employment in Nigeria. And Nigeria holds more than $36 billion in foreign reserves to support its currency. In 2018, it was reported that Nigeria held the largest foreign reserves in all of Africa. These foreign reserves allow Nigeria to manage further depreciation in the naira and underwrite confidence in the country's currency. Historically, Nigeria's employment rate has been reasonably consistent, usually ranging around 5%, and it wasn't until COVID sent it to a record-breaking 27%. Luckily, the rate is starting to go down again. Youth unemployment proves to be higher than for older workers. The 15 to 24 age group, a very large chunk of Nigeria's young population, had unemployment of 41%, and age group 25 to 34 with an unemployment rate of 31%. Nigeria has one of the largest youth cohorts in the world, with over 35% of the country's population falling within the age group of 15 to 34. With unemployment on the rise, the risk of social vices, depression, and apathy went up. Nigeria has a plan, though. The Nigerian government introduced a policy called the Nigerian Economic Sustainability Plan, or the NESP, intending to introduce millions of new jobs for Nigerian citizens. The most notable ones include 5 million new jobs through agriculture and food security programs, 1.8 million jobs through the Mass Housing Strategy, a new construction program, and 1 million new jobs in the technology sector. They plan to use many different labor-intensive methods to get them all to work. Government spending in Nigeria during the first half of the decade was slightly more than government revenues, resulting in annual fiscal deficits of about 2%. Deficits have expanded since 2015 in response to economic hit from lower oil prices. The main point to take away from all of this is that Nigeria has suffered a setback from both the lower oil prices and the impact of COVID, but it still has tremendous growth potential, and the government debt to GDP ratio is lower than for South Africa, Africa's second largest economy, and considerably lower than the Western world, like the United States. Nigeria's GDP grew at an impressive rate of 16% per annum from 2000 to 2015 on the back of rising exports of oil and gas and higher prices for those commodities, investment and government spending, and population growth over the same period. The decline in GDP in 2016 to 2017 is largely due to declining oil prices and the steep fall in global energy prices. A closer look at GDP performance since 2016 shows a breakdown of GDP growth between the energy sector and the broader economy. Whilst this broader economy still declined in 2016, it did so at a much lower rate. Since the fourth quarter in 2017, both the energy sector and the broader economy were back to consistent growth until the onset of COVID-19 in the second quarter of 2020. The largest estimate from the World Bank calls for an overall decline in GDP in Nigeria of 4.1% for all of 2020, which would make the COVID-19 crisis a lesser impact on the economy than the oil price decline in 2016. Oil prices increased sharply in the fourth quarter of 2020, which is largely attributable to the COVID-19 vaccine announcement and subsequent rollout. Raising energy prices on the back of a recovering post-COVID economy bode well for a promising return to GDP growth in Nigeria in 2021. It is also worth noting that agriculture makes up approximately 40% of the GDP in Nigeria. A recent investor research report suggested that the economy sector did not contract in 2020, therefore providing a solid foundation to GDP in Nigeria. In contrast, the World Bank estimates for SA is a GDP decline of 7.8% in 2020. As mentioned before, Nigeria shocked the world by having way fewer cases and deaths as everyone expected. For most cases per million citizens, they ranked 181st in the world out of a possible 200, amassing only 113,000 cases and 1,400 deaths. The GCCA would not be complete without a country from Africa, and they should look no further than Nigeria. The more their population increases, the more relevant they will become in the world. Nigeria should be picked for exceeding COVID expectations, considering that most Nigerians have a tightly packed population with little health care. It's time to trust the powerhouse of Africa. Thanks for watching.